Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy ETH Denver schedules to be here with us today. My name is Evan McMullen, co-founder of Privado ID, and also today rolling out the Billions Network, which is the first universal human and AI network built with mobile-first verification. To get us kicked off today, we are going to be talking about privacy, which is a little bit of an abstract concept, kind of an end state that happens after a series of decisions get made and information is shared or not shared. So to break down this concept in practice in DeFi today, we are here with some pretty illustrious panelists. So first, I'm going to invite everyone to share a little bit about themselves, maybe your name, the project you work on, and the last ZK application or experience that you used.
Yeah, I can start first. My name is zk, and I work as a DevRel engineer at Aleo. So Aleo is a general purpose programmable privacy layer 1 blockchain. And what's the question again? The last ZK
Yeah, what's the last ZK thing you used?
Yeah, I think the last ZK thing I really use is just experimenting on Aleo in general. Not exactly something that it's used in practice. Actually, yes. So I've been playing around with all those live applications on Aleo, such as Dexus, bridges we have too, and some of games. We have some game applications. And to be honest, the experience is not like super great yet, but we are working on that to improve, especially the proof generation time and things and such.
Hello, I'm José Pedro. I'm a DevRel engineer at Aztec Labs. Yeah, so I've been working with ZK for what seems like a long time. It's not. Yeah, with Socrates and SOCOM. Yeah, and I guess I found out about Noir, and that's pretty much what I do all the time because it's really cool. It's very fast with the different backends I can choose. And so yeah, that's also the language that you use for writing Aztec contracts. So it's kind of needed as a DevRel at Aztec. But yeah, that's it.
Hi, I'm Zane. I'm CTO of Horizen Labs. We're a labs co that's focused on 2 projects. The first one is Horizen, and that's L1 blockchain that's been here since 2017. We started as a privacy coin, and we are in transition moving to an L3 on Base, focused on privacy preserving apps. And then our other project is ZK Verify, where we're looking to bring down the cost of ZK proofs, particularly in the verification side. So targeting the foundation of privacy through zero-knowledge proofs. The last ZK project that I was playing around with, our team was in ZK Hack at Montreal, and just playing around with some of the RISC-0 ZK VMs.
Awesome. So now that we've got, a little bit of context of our panelists, I also just wanted to ask another question to our audience. How many of you guys would feel comfortable handing me your unlocked phone and letting me put it up on screen there to walk through? Okay. So we've got a limited set of takers for that offer. So what I'm hearing, guys, is that we all agree about privacy. We just need to negotiate what that actually looks like. So, often when we are here in places like ETH Denver, we talk about mass adoption. We talk about consumer experiences, enterprise experiences that are going to be appropriate for everyone, including our moms. How does privacy factor into that adoption? Like, do users care? Obviously, they do in some capacity based on our audience here, but when presented with incentives, how does that get simpler or more complicated? What is the role of privacy as a requirement or as a nice to have when we think about serving all the good folks who've joined us here today?
Yeah, I can start. Actually, you started by saying that privacy is hard to define, which I agree in part, but I think it's the power to choose what you are disclosing. And so to answer your question on whether I would give you my unlocked phone, I will. I would, because you're a nice person. I would totally trust you to not go and search on my messages. But would you trust someone that you never met, like some kind of node that is just handling your unlocked phone? I wouldn't. I don't know these persons. I don't know. I don't know you, right? So I wouldn't give my unlocked phone unless I trust. And so that's privacy. I would say privacy is the power to choose whether to give you my unlocked phone or not. So I think that's a small definition that has been useful for me.
I dig that. And I think perhaps what we might pair the word privacy with is consent. Consent is the action that you do, and privacy is the outcome that you land on. What do you think?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Consent and privacy are really tied together. In terms of mass adoption, I do think privacy is a necessity. I think there's just too many users in the world that's just something that it's too much to ask for, too much to sacrifice, not having privacy. Vitalik has mentioned this in the past, where he talks about kind of like Ethereum's maturity stages. So the 3 transitions to maturity. And the first one is a transition from L2s to L2s. And so we're already seeing that, where L2s are part of that roll-up centric Ethereum, and fully part of the L2 movement right now. The second transition is around smart wallets, and I think we're seeing a lot of that right now with like smart wallets proliferating. And the third one's privacy. Without privacy, I just don't think there's going to be mass adoption.
Certainly. So curious how you guys at Aleo, obviously leaders in the privacy space, think about these use cases where we've got composability on one hand. Yo, what's up, Francis? Always a dramatic entrance, everyone. Francis Barwa. Curious how you guys think at Aleo about privacy as a nice to have versus use cases where it is vital.
Yeah, we actually think that privacy is a requirement or a need to actually get reach to wider adoption. I like to use some of the examples. The reason why a lot of institutional players that are aware of blockchain and why are not they doing something with blockchain yet is because there's still fundamental challenge, which is privacy. Like imagine if you were to put a business-to-business payment infrastructures onto the blockchain, it is just not possible. You wouldn't want, as a business, especially like let's say you are supplying some raw material, you wouldn't want your customer knows that you are actually giving them a different pricing in the same material, because that is kind of your edge in your business, right? And other than that, there are also lots of use cases like payroll. Like we are all working with in crypto industry with crypto company, but our salary are still not paid using crypto. It's mainly because there's no privacy as is on blockchain. There are some foundation that do make their treasury very transparent. I guess such as a Uniswap Foundation, they do that, but there are actually concerns coming from their employees that now people can actually know that who they are and how much they are receiving, and that makes them actually worry about their security. So privacy to us is necessities to ensure not just security, but also giving freedom for business and people or just person to have the freedom to do anything they want with their with consent, like Pedro just mentioned. Mm-hmm.
That seems like a series of kind of sticky and weird use cases. Well, not weird, but just stirring up a little bit of human response. That's not a question of the protocol. Francis, how do you guys at zkPass think about information arbitrage in the context of privacy?
Yeah, thank you, first of all, and everyone. It's a pleasure to be here on the panel. I know I'm a little bit late. It's crazy getting in, but
Wizard
Aaron,
always arrives exactly on time.
Aaron, it's a pleasure as well to be on the panel. So yeah, for us, privacy is absolutely important, given the fact that we as consumers have our information in so many different data sets and data sources. And so it's important for an end user to have access to all their information, as well as selectively choose where they want to disclose and sort of, engage knowing exactly where the information is, as well as selectively picking where they want their information, as well as what information. So information arbitrage is absolutely crucial. We have multiple accounts on social channels, banks, etc. Right now, these days, algorithms know us more than we know ourselves, and that is just because they collect so much of our information. So it's crucial that individuals, especially being a user-centric protocol, have a source where they can basically have all their information. So it's absolutely, we think it's the ethos of what we should do as people.
So it sounds like our panelists are all in violent agreement that in the war on data, we are pro-choice in terms of what disclosure looks like. So now that we've got some philosophical alignment, let's talk about technical alignment. Guys, why is this hard? Why did we not start here? What are the technical challenges that we are running into like a brick wall at 1,000,000 miles an hour?
I can start again.
I'll take it.
Yes, not trying to start a trend here, but yeah, it is hard because if you go to the fundamentals, I mean, you could do it in a different way, but at least at Aztec, what we think is like if something leaves your machine, then it's not private anymore, okay? And so that's basically our idea. And so being able to do that, all this computation, which is very, very hard to do on an edge device like a smartphone or something, that's the most difficult part of it all. It's all good if you have a huge server in your whatever protocol and doing that on the server side, but that means that users will have to trust your server with their inputs, and you don't know. I mean, they could just be logging out. They could be logging your password, even if they don't want to disclose your information. They can be hacked, right? And so you want that everything that is private remains on your possession, and you can only reveal what Francis was just saying now, like just selectively reveal and selectively reveal to only these people that you want to. May that be one person, two persons, or just the whole world, what you want to be revealed. And so that's the power. I think and that's very difficult. I mean, we've been in this space for 7 years, so and yeah, like we've been struggling with that. So yeah, client side proving is in our view, it's the only way, but it's also the most difficult one. So yeah.
I definitely agree with you on that front. Our team at Privado ID are stewards of libraries like Sarcom, most broadly used zk libraries on Earth. And so we feel you. That stuff is hard. And we also definitely believe that general purpose hardware is the move. But we're also seeing some interesting solutions around trusting metal over math. Question, have any of you guys thought about these ways to address complexity with servers, exactly as you were just describing, in terms of what we are now calling trusted execution environments in the crypto context?
Sorry, I have
What's
a hot
the deal
take.
there?
I have a hot take about that. Because I think there is no, the problem with TEs is like as good as they are, they offer no significant advantage in economic guarantees. So if you throw like $10 billion at Ethereum, you'll just make Ethereum more secure because you're actually improving the economical guarantee of the protocol. But if you throw it at the TE, you may just be reaching that price point where someone would voluntarily or not break it. And so there's a price for TEs. It's cool, but there's a price for them. So maybe as a staging ground, that's fine. But I don't think it's a solution that fits the whole game theory that is one of the underlying blocks of Ethereum and blockchain. So that's my hot take on TEs, and I obviously like them. They provide us privacy, but I don't think they're a long-time solution.
Very spicy. Now, Zane, when we think of the sort of opportunities and challenges of metal, of math, of incentives, why is this stuff particularly hard, and how are you thinking about this as Horizen?
Yeah. I want to build on what Pedro said, which is really true around like the complexity and all what you just mentioned too. I think like client side is the way to go. But I don't know. I'm just trying to take a big step back. I think what makes it technically complicate is two things. It's like kind of like the UX can be done better, as well as the cost. So one of our engineers had reminded me that back then not all phone calls were encrypted. It was hard to make an encrypted phone call where you had to get special hardware. It was not free, so it's complicated and expensive. But now it's free. You don't even think about it. WhatsApp calls, end-to-end encrypted, Signal, phone calls. But back then, somebody could listen in on your call. So I think for the technical challenges is to bring the cost down, and that's what we're thinking about in terms of Horizen. We view that zero-knowledge proofs are the way to achieve privacy. So on the foundational level, we're attacking that, bringing down the cost of that. And then I think on the client side, there's a lot of wallet advancements that are happening. I know Vitalijks has mentioned like stealth addresses being generated for every transaction. I think privacy pools are the way to go as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of like advancements on the way.
ZK Lim, question. How are you guys thinking about this at Aleo? We've talked about cost, we've talked about performance, UX, security, trade-offs, and incentives. What are we missing here?
What are we missing here? Yeah, I guess now we already have the technology to enable privacy preserving application. Lots of different application we have now. The work right now is really just about to improve to the state that developers can easily build whatever they want without getting deep dive into all those hard cryptography before actually doing so. So at Aleo, we actually take a huge effort on this front, where the reason why we are creating our own, not just language, actually the whole stack, is solely just to make sure the work of developers can be focused on building the application, but not figuring out how ZK actually works and all kind of difficult stuff. And all they need to know is really just the basic concept of how it works, and they can get started to build application. In terms of proving, I guess lots of different players in this industry, we are all trying to find solutions to make sure that the UX of a user it's seamless for them to actually start to use all these applications that we are building right now.
So Francis, the DevEx is gnarly, the UX is gnarly. Tell us, how does zkPass think about these unique challenges, especially at the experiential layer, once we have addressed our math and our metal and our incentives?
I believe the best, everyone touched on a very important factor, and picking up from where he left off is the UX experience. I think that's very important. But I want to say it has to be the speed, the execution speed. So for us, we looked at it, instead of doing the traditional snarks and the normal went to a volley model, which creating our own libraries and making it vol in the head. And that basically made the proof time less than like 1 second. So with that, we saw that, okay, if we can eliminate the user's ability to have patience, then we would achieve kind of like a flow and seamless way of them having an experience when they interact with dApps. So speed, as well as just not being able to understand the way of incorporating the technology, which is just like a 15-minute or 8-line code SDK. These things actually do help give developers the enthusiasm as well as confidence in trying out technology.
So now that we've discussed a little bit about our philosophical views, the logistical and technical challenges that stand in the way of what we might think of as perfect execution, now let me be a little bit of a buzzkill. We live in a society. There are rules. Everything that we do happens downstream of regulation, despite the Travis Kalanick style attitude that many might have toward the legal enforcement and opinions of jurisdictions where we build and operate. So what's a builder to do? Holding the tension of privacy and consent is very powerful primitives and user interactions, but also being subject to regulatory requirements far beyond securities when we start to talk about data, about human beings, and even about kids. Zane, you guys have been well steeped in the history of how these opinions have evolved. How do you think about this?
Yeah, the regulatory landscape, definitely has been tough. It's been really hostile in the past years, but it's changing. I think this is it's going from like hostility to more pragmatic, and I think the greater macroeconomic environment has changed, and so I think it's going to continue to change. So I think app developers can embrace that, where they can take a little bit of risk to set privacy settings by default, but still have that selective disclosure, as Francis mentioned. So I think it's a really unique time, and definitely a time to take advantage right now.
So Pedro, I feel like you guys at Aztec probably have some spicy takes here. Tell us, how are you moderating this tension in your practice, and what do you think an ideal way forward can look like?
Actually, I think the other way around, where you think, what power does X or Twitter, Facebook, whatever, have on what can be said or can be done in their platform? It's very hard for them because some things can't be said in some countries, whether we like it or not. And so if we're doing something that is for everyone, then you need to basically have full transparency, because then it's up to whoever is running, to whoever is deploying, whoever is building, to make sure that their stuff can be done. And so that's my hot take there, is that Aztec is actually not a privacy network. It's actually a fully public network, and it's just programmably private. So you can choose what is private and what is public, what is the public state, what is the private state. And that's just the power of choosing, which is the definition, as I was saying in the beginning, kind of the way I like to define privacy. So that's kind of my hot take. Sometimes people are like, what do you mean Aztec is not private? It's not a fully private network. It's not. It's a chain where you can choose. And so the way how you moderate this, it's actually not a problem that has to be solved at the infrastructure level, like we're building on Aztec. It's something that is up to the app developers, up to the games, up to the social networks built on top of that. And that's definitely a problem. But honestly, it's not something that we are working on. Like, we're not working on an app at the time. So, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that you guys sort of, push that decision making up the stack to the interfaces that are most likely to be regulated versus the underlying infrastructure itself. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, pretty much. Because that's, again, it's up to where you are and what you do. And I think that's actually better this way than it is currently, where there's this social networks, where these protocols that they actually they struggle, definitely. I mean, if you go on X and you try to report something, you have a report, and then you report for the EU button. So you actually have two buttons, and depending on where you are in the EU or not. So that's an example of something that it tells you that it doesn't work. So that's something that has to be done at the app layer.
So when it comes to the law, Aztec says, super not my problem. Aleo, would you guys agree with that view, or how do you engage with builders on the topic of governance at a nation state level?
Yeah, we at Aleo, we are taking very serious. We are very serious in compliance topic, and our committee even take the extra step to come out with a proposal that has been already approved to make sure that every funds coming into Aleo from either centralized exchange or bridges are properly scanned through, and make sure that the funds are not coming from a sanctioned address or any hack fund, things like that. And other than that, we are kind of doing the same thing, quite similar stuff as Aztec, where we provide the flexibility and freedom for developers to balance between the needs of privacy, but still have the option to build a certain level of public features to, let's say, have an audit logs on private transfers to for the authority to have the ability to look at the transaction that is okay to do so. And yeah, I guess that's my take. Maybe Francis, do you?
Yeah, Francis, I know that you have a really unique view on global governance. So I'm very curious to hear, what does this mean, as we ascend the stack to the application layer, and would especially love some of your insight on what is happening outside of the United States.
Yeah, so actually the most interesting thing is what you guys are doing outside the US. But I will say, just to answer the first question, is for us, we've been building this since 2022. Compliance changes all the time, especially with data. We're an Oracle that deals with data. So we decided to just not touch data at all. That was our way out first. So our protocol does not have access to touch or store your data. You as a user, it's your data, it's your private information. You have the choice of putting it on chain, off chain, basically, because we're very user-centric protocol. So that is the way we navigated the whole regulatory framework. And of course, we keep seeing, like Europe laws, US laws, are they changing? Data changes every time with the introduction of AI. So we sort of looked at it a little bit different. Now, also, when we speak to a lot of regulators outside of the United States, they have their own specific requirements. Most of them want to have an establishment within their own jurisdiction because they cannot trust any protocol outside of their jurisdiction, especially when you're dealing with data and people's data. So, you have to navigate this very carefully. I like how, everyone here is very cautious on how they touch it, and they are a very clear sort of definition of what their protocol does. I think that is the most important thing. You have to always sort of look at every single step that you're taking and ensure that you have the user as well as whichever jurisdiction you're dealing with in mind, because one simple, it only really takes one user to be in the wrong place or have the wrong kind of address in order for you to have to deal with and face different sort of challenges. So for us, we decided to just not deal with it. But when we talk to regulators, we sort of just kind of try to work within their framework, but telling them specifically that we can adjust to them, but we, at a core, do not access or store the data. I would like to hear a little bit. I know you're asking us questions, but you guys dealt a lot with regulators outside and data. If you don't mind maybe sharing your input, because everyone here, I know that you have a different one than what they have, because I've talked to your team before.
No, I appreciate that, Francis. And I definitely also, I'm very grateful for the nuanced and well-informed view that all of you guys have. Exactly as you noted, Francis, understanding and defining clearly what we do not do, what we touch, what we do not touch, to ensure that we are managing risk appropriately and offering an optimal selection and, set of opportunities for our builders. At Privado ID and, with our work in the government space, we work hand in hand with regulators, not only to educate them about what these technologies are and how they work, leading to outcomes such as the ability to use zero-knowledge proofs as a legally acceptable form of being able to represent data or prove data without disclosing it. One really interesting thing that I've seen from the identity side is that there are many government digital identity solutions that are basically just giant spreadsheets. But those are deeply in need of modernization, because in some spaces, over more than 1 billion citizens have had their private information inappropriately disclosed. That opens up all kinds of crazy risk surfaces. And so the way that we view the ecosystem, very similar to you guys, is one that is centered on developer choice, focused on selective disclosure and consent, and perhaps most crucially, experiences that don't suck. And so, if anyone is interested in perhaps some rule sets or best practices, highly recommend that you check out an OG document called The 7 Laws of Identity from Microsoft back in the day. Basically a set of best practices if you are building systems for human beings and you want to minimize risk and harm to those humans.
And I think the most important thing for all of us is that we have to educate people, and we have to also educate the public sectors. They really do not know. They can set laws without having an understanding that there's other alternative way of dealing with them. So it's actually up to everyone sitting on this panel, and of course others, to basically just be aware and always, I know we're navigating it so we don't end up in bars or behind bars, but we, I think, have a responsibility to also educate people as well as public sectors who are in charge of the protecting people.
So speaking of regulators and regulated entities, let's talk about size, guys. So, you may be getting some weird vibes from the 11,000 people of crypto Twitter who are a little emotional about where their bags might be and what's cooking on the, consumer and meme front these days. But it is impossible to deny Citadel, BlackRock, JP Morgan, HSBC, Deutsche Bank, institution after institution lining up their $2 trillion+ in capital waiting to come on chain. What does this mean for adoption of privacy tools? You noted earlier, zkLim, the importance of selective disclosure for business operations and maintaining an edge in the market, but where does institutional adoption and privacy tech intersect? How do you guys think about this?
We think that privacy it's very important for them to actually not just build a system on top of it, but can actually manage their treasury and lots of sensitive information, not only for financial purpose, but a lot of different use cases in data too. I guess that's what I'm thinking right now.
I want to add on top of what zkLim said. I think institutions, they will be part of that driving force for privacy, especially because of stable coins. Like stable coins is just an explosive area you can't ignore. I mean, in terms of market cap, it's like $200 billion worth in 2024. 2025 is projected to be 400 billion. And then, just like even transaction volume of stable coins, that's like in the trillions, like 16 trillion. So I think it's too hard to be ignored. And those transactions will need to be private so that they can be moved further along. So I think they'll be part of the journey.
Yeah. This little institution, nobody has heard about that, called Bybit. What could have helped it not suffering this huge attack is just not having this huge flag and saying, oh, there's this amount of ETH here ready for everyone to see and ready to be hacked, right? So I think that's basically defines the whole problem with these institutions, is that if we want things to be backed up, which I guess everyone wants to purchase USDC, and everyone wants that to be backed up by something, especially dollars, right? And so what happens if you have all that amount just sitting there? You go to a ledger, you go to a block explorer, you can actually sort by how much ETH is on one particular wallet. Like, there's a huge flag saying, please hack me, And so, that's the thing about institutions. Nobody wants to get hacked. So basically, you need to have your balances need to be private, because it's something that's actually private. You don't want to disclose your salary. You don't want to disclose your wealth. And that same applies even more for institutions like countries and banks and whatever, And so, that's the problem with Bybit. It's that they were working with blockchain, and blockchain is public. And there was no other way for them. If there was, maybe they would definitely try to have their balances private. Like, why wouldn't they?
Make an exceptional point there. I don't know if anyone remembers the circa 2010 website called Please Rob Me that was built out of map and the open APIs from Twitter and from Facebook, putting together information about who was announcing they were going on holiday and were going out of town. And I think you've described exactly the same thing. We put huge please rob me signs on very large wallet balances and start to concentrate risk there. So we've got a few minutes left. Francis, do you want to note on this tension with institutions? That I'm going to ask everyone for a quick piece of advice for our ETH Denver attendees this week.
Yeah, I think it's a very challenging question. I respect what everyone is stating, but you also have to understand that you can't completely be anonymous and still interact with institutions. It's just not possible. I can have a company in Panama and make money from it. I don't have to pay taxes, but I still have to declare it because there's still certain confined regulations that I have to be in the middle of. So there's a middle ground there somewhere, but that could be a whole other conversation. In this sense, though, because we don't have a lot of time, I would love to say that the best thing to do is to just improve the quality and advancement of technology in the privacy sector, as well as security aspect of things, which everyone over here has their own thoughts and capability.
Excellent. And I apologize, guys. We are about to have the music start playing. They're going to pull me off the stage. But thank you again so much for your thoughtful insights, panelists, and for taking time out of your busy day, guys. So please, hydrate, be excellent to one another, and we will see you on chain.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. And thank you, everyone.
you.
Yep.